Muddy as a clay hole. There he is. Well, I can't believe I caught that fish. Muddy as that water is. What about that? Good fish too. Not a bad one at all. That tells me they can be caught. That's a smallmouth. Doggone right. Okay. Look here, folks. Look how muddy that water is. That's a smallmouth. It rained a whole lot yesterday. And I took a chance and come on up here anyway. And yeah, this water's muddy, which I knew it would be. But ain't that a pretty little smallmouth? Look at there. Let's let him go. That's just how effective a doggone hellgrammite is. And to be honest with y'all, that's just how doggone good a smallmouth can see in muddy water. Let's let him go. Ain't that something else? That shows it right there. Go on back, boy. What I'm gonna do right here is something I normally don't do. I'm so excited that I caught a fish in this muddy water. Y'all can see it's muddy right here, that I'm just gonna pitch on back in there again. What I done is just pitched right here in this slack water area. Water's pretty deep right here, and I was just moving that bait real slow. Just picking it up, letting it fall. Picking it up, letting it fall real slow. And it just so happened to come by that smallmouth just right to where he detected it. And he grabbed it. That's all lateral line right there. That's not sight, that's lateral line, I imagine. Because this is generally a clear water, real clear water area right here. Let's see if we can catch one right here. There's a bite. There's another one. What about that? My. Who says you can't catch them in muddy water? Who says you can't catch them in muddy water? This is a different species here, folks. This is a spotted bass right here. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Beautiful spotted bass. Oh, I'm tickled to death. That's why I always say go fishing when you can, because it's good for you. What a beautiful little spotted bass. Look at that. All right, folks, let's let him go. That's a beautiful little spotted bass right there. All right, let's talk about it. That's unusual for me to start one off like this, but we're going to talk about it just a little bit, which is a very important part of fishing, and I've never talked about it too much. Okay, now what we have right here is a situation where the water is muddy. I'm talking about clay hole muddy. Generally speaking, this is a very clear area right here. The water clarity is super clear. So we had some hard rains last night and some this morning, and hey, the creek's muddy. The creek's real muddy. And this is a perfect opportunity right now to talk about the lateral line of a bass or any other fish. Now, I caught both of those fish on a Nico Helgramite. Those two fish did not rely on sight, believe you me, to capture this Helgramite. They didn't rely on it at all. What they relied on is their lateral line. And their lateral line is that line that runs down the length of their body, which I should have saved one of those bass and shown y'all if you're not familiar with a lateral line, especially for those who are just now starting to fish. But a lateral line is that line that goes down the length of their body. Some fish, it's more evident than other, or what I mean is certain species of fish, it's more evident than others. But in a bass, it's pretty evident, and a crappie, and fish like that. Now, what it is, they have tiny hair-like structures, you know, along their lateral line. They pick up vibrations from the water. Now, this is just a survival mechanism that the Lord put in them so they can survive under conditions like this. And they use that, and they use it very effectively to detect even quiet presentations like this one. Now, another good presentation to throw right now would be a spinnerbait, a single bladed spinnerbait with either an Indiana or Colorado blade, one that would emit a lot of vibration, but I don't have any with me. And as far as color, the darker colors, black skirts, or well, chartreuse does real well in water clarity like this. Slow rolling a bait like that will ensure you're catching a few fish. But this works too. That shows how good a lateral line is when it comes to a fish. Now, like I said, this is a gin clear, generally speaking, a gin clear deal right here. I mean, this water is crystal clear. So these fish are used to feeding primarily by eyesight. But that don't mean that their lateral line is not advanced enough to be useful to them when it does get muddy like this. In fact, y'all seen that. Two bass, boom, boom. All right, folks, let's pitch it back out there again. I caught that spot right there. And that water ain't that deep right there. Matter of fact, it's probably 2-3 feet deep is all. And what I'm doing right here is I'm just moving this bait super slow on account of the water being muddy. And what I'm doing is hoping that it's close enough to a fish to where he'll detect it by using his lateral line. So now I'm using a mud bug color, which is a dark brown Nico Helgramite. I have some solid centered black ones with me that would probably work a little bit better. The darker the color, generally speaking, the better a bait will work under conditions like this. It'll help create a dark silhouette for the fish to see in the muddy water is what I'm trying to say. But this dark brown, obviously, which I knew it would be, is still dark enough. So there's not that much difference in between dark brown and black, not really. Or obsidian, that's the name of the Helgramite that I'm referring, made by Nico. I might put it on here in a little bit, but I don't think that little darker bit of darker shade would make all the difference. Much more difference is what I'm saying. So what we're doing right here, being that I don't have a spinner bait or something like that that's going to make a lot of vibration, is I'm hoping when I pitch it out there like that, that my offering is going to get within a foot or so of a fish. If it does, and if that fish is hungry and he detects it and he's hungry, he'll eat it. It's just that simple. And I'm sure they can see it good enough to tell, or instinctively believe. It's hard to say that when you're trying to think like a fish, or what a fish would think, but instinctively tell that it's a hellgrammite just by the shape. I'm sure they can. But these fish could be most anywhere. I mean, they could even be way over there like that, right by the bank. And a lot of times that's what they'll do. They'll get right against the bank. So they could be most anywhere. But the trick to catching fish on a bait type like this is, let's say if that's all you had with you, and you encounter conditions like this, and you still want to fish, well, just fish the bait slow. And after you catch a couple, like I did, it'll boost your confidence. Remember, I told you that there's a fish, there's a bite. Ooh, he didn't get it though. It was just a tap. That could have been a little bluegill or something like that. But after you catch a couple fish, it will boost your confidence enough to keep fishing. And remember, I've always stressed this, that fishing is basically, or most of fishing and catching fish is basically based on confidence. If you're confident that you're going to catch a fish, chances are you most likely will. There he is. There's another one. What is that? That's a rock bass, folks. So there you have it. A rock bass. Now, a rock bass has a lateral line. Look, quit. You're going to hurt yourself, boy. Quit. It's a little bitty rock bass. But right here, if y'all look, right down through there. See that line? That's the lateral line. And that's why that fish bit in this mud hole. I've had a lot of comments, people, boy, he's got some sharp fins. Rock bass will eat you up, especially the small ones. They got some really sharp fins. They're like needles on the ends of them, but yeah, there's the lateral line. See it? He thought he had him a hellgrammite or something. He didn't know what it was, but it's really amazing. You know, a lot of y'all tell me that I could catch them out of a mud hole. Well, we're at a mud hole. This ain't nothing but a mud hole. Look down there and you can see the visibility is about, let's see, 1, 2, about 3 inches, and that bait's gone. Can't see it no longer. So, yeah. So don't let Pal Paul tell you that they ain't biting just because the creek's muddy. Now, Pal Paul means well, but now Pal Paul don't know everything. Richard Gene don't know everything. But the things that I do know, I'm going to share with y'all. The key is to fish very, very slow and deliberate. That's the key. And the next key is to have the confidence that if it comes close enough to a fish, whether it be a bass, rock bass, or whatever, he's going to eat it. Okay? But the reality of it is, I would love to have, if I was going to fish this hellgrammite, I'd love to have my rattles with me, because what I would do would be to insert a rattle, a worm rattler, into this bait, and that would further enhance me catching fish, no doubt. But I don't have any of that with me. I have what I have. Huh. Could there be one right there? Yep. There he is. Yep. Golly. Right there. Little jaw. What about that, folks? I asked myself, could they be a fish right there at the end of that? And they was. God, that fish is fighting. Smallmouth dude. Come on up here, boy. Pretty little smallmouth. Look at there, look at there, look at there. See, they're going to be normally where they're not going to be. Well, this is always going to be a good place. We got 2 pipes right there, but that fish, whoop, excuse me, he ain't going to get off, but he's still fighting. Look at that little fish right there. Y'all can see right there where that eddy is. Right up against the bank. There's probably another fish right there too. I wouldn't doubt it. I say pretty nice pretty little small jaw. Let's let him go. We're not going to be able to see him swim off. Normally I like to watch them smile off. What am I saying? Swim off. Y'all excuse me, folks. But let's just chunk him back right there. That fish hit right up against the bank. I dropped it right on top of his head, and that's all you have to do. When the water's muddy like this, just keep fishing different places. And finally you'll get close enough to a fish to where he can, that lateral line can detect that there's something there. But right in there is where he hit. They could be our another one right there too. That's a good spot anyway. For not just bass, for any species. Catfish, bluegill, shellcracker, most anything. Right there is where he bit. Let's see how deep that is. Oh man, about a foot deep. We'll try it on out in there a little bit. There's fish. Yep, and this one's a little bit bigger. This one's, not much, but a little bit. This is what it's, oh, come here, boy. This is what it's about right here. Having fun and at the same time understanding what you're doing, folks. Study this stuff out to where you can consistently catch fish, whatever you want to catch, whatever species. But there he is. That's another little smallmouth about the same size. He might be just a little bit bigger. I'm going to chunk it back there again. You know, I'm telling you, there could be several fish right there. And you never know, they could be our biggin in there on it. Okay, let's let him go. But this is a mud hole, and this is all about lateral line. Now another good bait right here would be a jig, like a bitsy bug, a black one with a black crawfish trailer on the back of it, and put 2 or 3 of those little glass beads in it, rattlers. That'd be a great presentation right here. But that fish was right out in there. He was out there a little bit farther. I'm just picking it up a few inches, letting it fall right here. This is almost like vertical jigging right here, which is a great thing to do. No different than crappie fishing. Keeping that bait in front of their face long enough to tempt them to bite. It's what we're trying to do right now. But that's 2 bass right here. Now, just because, let's say if I don't catch another one, I fish here for, 15, 20 minutes, you know, really hard, and I don't get bit again, that don't mean there's no more bass down there. No. Not at all. Because a lot of times this is a situation right here that fish I gang up. I mean lots of fish. Lots of bass. Okay. Let's go right here. I've been looking at this right here, folks. Right there. Y'all see that against the bank? And see that water coming out? Okay. Right there. There he is. Okay. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. Being able to predict where a fish is and where one's not is very important when it comes to fishing. He's another little feller, but he's a smallmouth. Quit. You stop that. You don't do that. They're all small right here for some reason. But there's our another one right there. And I predicted exactly where that fish was. Now, the reason why is this way, okay? It's because I'm old. I've been around a long time. Let's let him go. This ain't my first rodeo. Muddy water ain't near a bit of problem for me. But these fish, they're going to be getting areas where they can ambush prey. And this is not anything unusual. They're going to get in. That fish that I just caught, that was his area. Let's go back over here and look at it. All right, well, see, I caught one right here. I'm going to put the bait right there where I caught him. And then I caught one out here. Okay, right on the edge of that current seam. And then we caught one right here. Y'all can see the pipe. See the edge of the pipe? But that fish was laying right there. Out of the current. But yet he's waiting right there to ambush something like my Helgramite. Let's see if there's another one there. They could be. Then that might have been the only one at home. But sometimes 2 or 3 you take up residence. There, that. Current grabbed it. Let's let that current grab it, matter of fact, just a little bit and go up under it and let it go up under there. Alright, what we're going to do now is walk right on over here. I see, I think, another ambush point. Well, under these conditions, okay, we got a little creek coming out right here. It's clear. That's how I fish a Nico Helgramite, just like that, folks. I don't text pose it. I'll run that hook through there and let that hook lay on top of the bait, just like that. Nico is sort of a rubber type material. I don't know what you call it. In text posing ain't the answer. It'll cause you to miss fish, is what it'll do. It's so tough. All right, folks, let me show y'all what I'm fishing with right here. Let's start with the rod right here. Anytime I'm creek fishing, whether I'm catching small ones or big ones, that's something you really can't control. I like a rod that's very forgiving. And here's a good one. This is a 6-foot dock shooter rod. It's made for shooting docks for crappie, but it's an excellent rod for what we're doing right here with Helgramites and fishing for smallmouth. 6 foot long, light action. Okay. Now this is a 1,000 size Daiwa reel, and I have 8-pound test high-vis Suffix braid loaded onto the reel. Now, as far as leader line, I use a lot of different types. When it comes to mono, I like 2 types, and this is P-line right here, CXX. It says extra strong, so I'm using 10-pound test monofilament leader, green P-line right now. Very, very strong. And another that I like is Red Cajun. It's a strong line. And both of them are the handles abrasion very well, especially on these rocks. Now this leader is about, 6 feet long. And I have a double uni knot. That's my connection right there, which I believe is a very, very, very stout connection to braid to mono, or from braid to fluorocarbon. As far as fluorocarbon is concerned, it's not necessary now, no doubt. But really, the main thing is right here on the business end. Now this is a black, and I'm using black and I'm using a mud bug. They're both dark colors. It's a 3-inch Nico Helgramite, okay, in black, solid center black. They call it obsidian. And what I have right here is just a size 1 Gamakatsu wide gap hook. That's all that is. Wide gap, a light wire hook. When it comes to fishing a Helgramite, I'm catching a lot more fish, especially on this Nico Helgramite, rigging it by putting a nail weight, inserting one right here, right there below the head. And I'm using a 1 gram weight right now. And I've shown it before, you can't push that nail weight in this bait. This bait's too tough. What you have to do, or what I have to do, is take a needle and heat it up, make me track it out. In other words, burn me a hole in it, and then push the nail weight in. And I'm going to tell you the advantages to this right here is it's super weedless. You don't have that bullet weight right there to hang up on these rocks, and that's real important. It just seems like I get more strikes, because instead of standing it up just like a Ned rig would stand up, and that's basically what this bait's going to do, because it's so floaty and buoyant, it's going to stand up. It's actually by inserting a nail weight right here, right behind the head, it makes this Helgramite sit up at about a 45-degree angle. And that is more of a natural presentation than just straight up. Even though I like a Ned rig using this bait, but it just seems like I get more strikes like that by it sitting up at a 45 like that. Okay. Now, another thing is, like I said, it rides over the rocks a lot better. You don't hardly ever get hung up because of rigging it this way. Okay. Which, if you have a bullet weight out here, or a head from a jig head, it'll get caught in between those rocks, especially in current situations like you know, we fish in these creeks and rivers. So that's just how I'd go about it. Now, as far as color goes, always remember, and this is my opinion, the darker colors is going to get more strikes. They can see the silhouette of this bait much better in muddy water. Whether you're using a Helgramite or a 4-inch plastic worm or a crawfish or whatever, it don't matter what kind of bait you select, as long as it's dark, black, or any type of dark color. Now that's just my opinion. There he is. Golly. Boy, one knocked the fire. He's still got it. All right. Let's get on back out here now. This is a little better fish right here. He hit it once and then come back and got it. Golly. I mean, that fish hit it, folks. Blowed it out and they come back and got it. It's another small jowl. Quit. Okay, I knew there's probably another fish or two in there. I kept messing with it and kept messing with it and got him to bite. Just patience, patience. But y'all can see the lateral line here on this fish, or maybe you can. These fish, they've changed colors. I'm sure they're a lot lighter than this, and where the lateral line can be seen a lot better. But these smallmouth are kind of the watercolor they change. The pigments do. But anyway, there's the lateral line. If you look down through there, there's a line. See that line right down the middle of the fish, right through there. If it hadn't have been for that, we wouldn't have caught him. Okay. He's a little bit bigger than them others. Not much, but a little bit. Let's let him go. Smallmouth will fool you. They're so strong, folks. When you set the hook, it's just, even a fish of that size, especially with tackle like this, they feel like, oh, I was a 3-pounder. I could, if I'd have lost that fish, I could have said, boy, that was a 3-pounder. I could have, but I didn't. Didn't lose him. So let's make another cast right there. But I'm going to say it one more time because I don't want to aggravate y'all, or I don't like to overemphasize anything, but in this muddy water like this, it's very, very important to fish slow and take your time and be patient. All three of those. All right, folks, there's a little bit more of muddy water fishing. And what's important, I believe, is to appeal to the lateral line of a fish in muddy water would be to fish very slow like we did today, real slow and methodical. It's very, very important in muddy water conditions, especially if you're fishing an environment where the water for the most part stays gin clear all the time. But remember, that's what that lateral line for a fish is for, is so that fish can continue to feed, find prey and feed even in conditions like that. It's amazing how by fishing slow would create strikes like that in muddy water, but it will. It will. And like I said, there's a variety of baits to use, not just a hellgrammite. There's a lot of different baits that one can use to get the job done. I want to say God bless each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for all the great comments. Everything y'all do is appreciated. Woo. I'm talking about woo. Hey, man. Woo. Woo. I'm talking about woo. And to remember, go fishing when you can, because it's good for you.